Good day to you, and welcome to CMST 410, Comparative Media. I want to let you know right off the bat that this course is also being offered in 2020, next year, in Mazatlan, Mexico in the summer. We're going to go down there for 2 weeks in May. I took 9 students here this year. Their places are right on the beach. Yeah, that's where they're staying, and so is our classroom, and we had a fantastic time studying media and focusing on Mexican media. So I just want to let you know about that option if you wanted to bow out of this version and take that one. At any rate, my name is Rob McKenzie. I'm a professor of communication. I'm also the department chair. I'll be introducing myself more formally to you in my introduction video, which we'll all be doing by tomorrow's class, or by tomorrow, I should say. At any rate, I'm sitting here in my yard, but it could be anybody's yard in terms of the basics. Got a lawn. Beyond that, I don't know if you can see it, it's a hazy day, but is East Stroudsburg University. And beyond that is the world. The world. What you don't see looking at the thin air here are the thousands of radio and television signals circulating all over the world, carrying all kinds of content, news, film, music, for example, all circulating around the world as we speak. The world is a mighty big place. It takes an airplane 2 full days to circle all the way around the world. And when you circle around the world, you will pass by up to 200 countries in the world. How many countries are you going to get to visit in your short dance in life? Not saying that that should be your mission, but to put it into perspective, most people will only visit a few of the countries that exist out of the 200 countries in this world. And therefore, our knowledge about the rest of the world is derived mainly through media and through people who have traveled to other countries. And it is the media portion of what we know about the world that we'll be focusing on in this class, because the world is so big. And I can tell you, if you haven't had the chance to travel, media are vastly different in other countries around the world. If you were watching television in Sweden right now, you would see a big black box at the bottom of most TV screens, and in that black box you would have the Swedish language, because the program that you're watching is British, or American, or German, or Latvian, if you've ever heard of that country. And so the Swedes bring in content in its original form, and then they use a black bar at the bottom of the television screen to teach people basically how to translate the content they're seeing into Swedish. It's a very interesting use of television as a kind of instructional tool while people are still being entertained. Similarly, if you were to go to Mexico right now, one thing that you would find is that NFL football games are being watched in movie theaters in Mexico. Mexicans just love NFL football. They have their own NFL commentators, and they are always watching, most of the time, I should say most Mexicans are very interested in NFL football. So these are 2 tiny examples of how media content differs vastly around the world. And it's our job in this class to study media from a global perspective, from a comparative media perspective, to try and learn about our own beliefs and thoughts and values as they are derived from media. I can tell you, for example, that when you watch a fast food commercial here in the United States for whatever restaurant you pick, let's say it's Chick-fil-A, let's say it's McDonald's, whatever, embedded in that commercial are values about when to eat and how to eat. You know, the fast food is designed for people on the move. It's designed increasingly to fit into cup holders in our car. And that is a value that is being transmitted just simply by an advertisement. So that's what we're going to study, but on a much grander and more theoretical scale in this class. This class has been completely rebuilt from the way that I've taught it before, so there will be probably some growing pains that we'll go through in this class, and I may need to make some adjustments, but that's my job. It's to offer fresh material. So let me tell you about the history of this course, since it has changed. I'm the one who designed it about 25 years ago. I designed it for the Department of Communication because it was missing. It was an important piece that was missing from what we're learning about when we're studying communication. What could be more important today than to learn about how other countries are communicating and why they are communicating in the way that they are? Is it by choice, or are there other factors? That's what we're going to be studying in this class. I later developed this class as an overseas class. That class is now taught during most summers in a foreign country. I told you I'm taking my class to Mexico. Previously, I took my class for the previous 2 summers to Sweden. I've also taught this class in Puerto Rico, St. Croix, China, France, Britain, and the Dominican Republic. So I've taught this class in a lot of places. I also want to say that this course is now offered as a graduate course, CMST 510. That is another possibility for you if you want to join the Mexico trip. The 510 course is part of an accelerated program that we offer in our department now. The accelerated program is where students who have 90 credits and who have a 3.0 or very close to it can start to take graduate courses in our brand new master's program, which launched in January. So if you start in the accelerated program, you can take up to 3 graduate courses in your senior year. And what that does is it allows you to count courses twice. You can count your course for your undergrad degree, and then you can also count it for your graduate degree. And that means that when you start your graduate degree, having participated in the accelerated program, the Blue Jays are really noisy today. Yeah, that's captured on media, right? So, and if you want to maximize the accelerated program, you take 9 credits, and then when you go for your master's degree, it's only a 1-year program. You finish the MA in 1 year. So that's something for you to think about. All right, let's focus now on the fact that this is an online course. I don't know if this will be your first online course or not, but the biggest complaint that I hear from students about why they don't do well in online courses is they can't remember the due dates for assignments. That's because you're on your own, right? You're having to get up and check your schedule and make sure that you've got it in your phone or you've got your notifications set up on D2L to remind yourself about the assignments are due. That's on you. That's an onus that you shoulder when you take an online class. And so I do advise that you set up your notifications on D2L. You go to settings and you can set up notifications for assignment due dates, and I think they'll ship right to your phone or to your email. And also just make sure you know when stuff is due. The main way that you can do that is to have that syllabus in front of you every single day. It's on D2L, but you can save it to your phone. You can screenshot it. You can keep it handy for yourself. That's what you have to do in an online course. There's not going to be anybody knocking on your door and saying, hey, something is due today. Now, having said all that, there is a general rhythm that you can expect from this course. It's going to run on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's going to run from 1 o'clock on the Tuesday, and then the assignments will be due 1 o'clock the next day after 24 hours. Same with Thursday. Assignments are opened up at 1 o'clock on Thursday. They're due by 1 o'clock on Friday. This is the general pattern for the course. But as you will see when we get deeper into the course, things do get a little bit flipped because we have a switch day in there. So what you're used to doing on Tuesdays will get changed later in the course when we get to that switch day, and the class has to catch up from that. And what you do on Thursdays will be switching with what you do on Tuesdays. And so that's something you have to pay attention to. You have to pay a lot of attention to what's going on in this course. All right, let's talk about the syllabus now. I hope that you can bring that up. You can pause the video, obviously, while you do that. It's under the Content tab of D2L. Starting at the top, my name is Rob McKenzie. I have a Ph.D. from Penn State University, where I studied international broadcasting. That was my focus. I also have a master's degree from Penn State University in communication as well, or speech communication it was called. And prior to that, I started out as an undergraduate at Millersville University, where I earned a BA in history with a focus on American business history. The classroom is going to be held. It's going to be held in virtual space. You know about that. And so you're going to need to have great access to the internet, right? I guess you can try and do this course on your phone. I'm sure some students have. It might be kind of difficult typing away all those posts that you'll have to do with your thumbs and making sure that you account for grammar and other mistakes that you have to correct before you turn them in. But for the most part, most of you will be doing this on laptops and tablets. The readings for the course are 2. You've got this book, Global Media Studies. It's my first time with this book. We'll see how it goes. I like the layout of it. I like the table of contents. We will be studying media from a very critical perspective that involves a lot of challenges to your thought processes that are embedded in the culture that we've grown up in the United States. You'll be challenged by this book, and that's a book that you need to have if you want to pass the course, because you're going to be posting on material from that book. There's a second book called Rounding Some Corners. I don't have that handy here, but you can find that online. It's also at the bookstore along with the previous book. Rounding Some Corners, Observing Life's Oddball Ironies. That's the subtitle of it. It's a book that I wrote. It's a book that's a collection of columns that I originally published in a newspaper, but I don't want to use the word newspaper because it's going to get across the wrong message. These are not newspaper columns per se. These are not columns about Pennsylvania. These are not columns that were tied to October 20th when they were published. These are columns about absurd ways that people behave that are also, in a way, ironies that teaches about life. And most of my columns in this book deal with media. So I have you use this book in this class because I want you to be posting those columns and I want you to be relating them to the chapter material in the class. The columns, in other words, are a springboard for you to jump off of so that you can develop your own ideas. More about that when we get to those assignments. You need to have that book as well. It's for sale on Amazon. I'm not promoting a particular vendor here and just telling you a place that you can find it if you're not in East Stroudsburg. It's also for sale on the publisher's website, Fountainhead Press. It's a little bit more difficult to find there. All right, let's move now to the departmental outcomes on the syllabus. I've already talked to you about the online format. That's the next thing that's listed on the syllabus, so I'm going to skip past that, go to departmental outcomes. I'm going to let you read those on your own. These are outcomes that we expect all of our students to have to achieve by the end of every single course in our department. They are universal outcomes for the Department of Communication. Then next up are what we call course outcomes, or course goals, as they are sometimes called. And in this case, I have 5 course goals for you. Number 1, I want you to understand basic elements that comprise a media system. We're going to be looking at media in this class not as a television show, not as a website, not as a song on the radio. We're going to be looking at media as a system that exists in a country that has a unique feel to it. And that's the way we're going to be studying media. Number 2, in this class, I want you to be able to compare elements of a media system between 2 or more countries. We're going to focus a little bit on France, Sweden, the UK, USA, Mexico, China, Lebanon, and Ghana. That's because those countries were part of my book that I originally wrote for this class, which is out of date now, which is why I did not, which I've redesigned the class. But I have firsthand knowledge in these countries. I've traveled to all of them except for Lebanon. So I will be using examples from those countries in this class. And the idea of comparing, by the way, is very important. This is how we learn our reference point in life. It's how you figure out that you're short. It's how that you figure out that you're a late sleeper. It's how you figure out that you like pasta and that's a normal thing or not a normal thing. It's by comparing ourselves to others. It's where we learn our reference. It's how we learn our point of reference. And so that's what we'll be doing in this course under this second goal, comparing media systems. We'll be learning what our reference point is if you grow up here in the United States. Thirdly, I want you to be able to understand theoretical issues explaining international information flow. Because out there in that air, as things are traveling around, it's not just free space. It's not like Ecuador has the same chance to get its media content traveling across those radio and television waves as Canada. And there's a lot of reasons for that, the most obvious of which to you right away is probably the size of Ecuador, the fact that it's a developing country. So that's something we'll be studying also, is to understand theoretical issues that explain why information is not flowing equally and balanced. Fourthly, I want you to be able to identify cultural and political assumptions behind different media forms and content. When we look at media, it's not devoid of values, as I explained earlier in the fast food example. There are underlying values about America, about patriotism, about what it means to be a Pennsylvanian that get expressed every time you watch media content, and it's our job in a 400 level class to unearth those assumptions. And finally, you'll be able to conduct original research comparing 2 media samples from different countries in this class. That's your research paper at the end of class. What you're going to be doing in this class is selecting a country that you'll be studying all semester long, and then at the end of the class in a research paper, you're going to get together with another student who studied a different country and learn from them, and you're going to be comparing your 2 media systems between the country you studied and the country that they've studied. And in so doing, you'll be conducting original research. That's what a 400 level class is all about. It's about writing and it's about research. Now let's go into the course requirements for this class. So the first requirement is going to be called a country media post. And what that means is you're going to pick a country. Let's say you're picking Belgium. And you're going to study Belgium all semester long. And for all the country media posts, which you can see on the syllabus, you're going to be taking whatever we're discussing for that particular day. Let's say it's financing. That's one of the subjects that we'll be studying. How are media financed in this country? And you're going to go research that on your own and then bring it into your posts that you make on Belgium for that particular day. There's going to be 10 of those posts. They're worth 3 points each for a total of 30 points out of 100 points. So roughly 1/3 of the class is going to be these country media posts. I'll say more about that assignment next class because we're not making our first post until next class. Let's move on to the next assignment now. The next assignment is called an RSC post. That's abbreviated for rounding some corners. The RSC posts you will make will be 11 posts. You'll make 11 posts and then I'm going to drop your lowest one. So for each RSC post, you'll select any 2 columns from Rounding Some Corners, and then you're going to, and you should try and select columns that are related to media. You can pick any columns in the book. You can go deep into the book. You can go from the front back. You can go from the back, go front. You can select randomly. You can go to the index of topics at the back of the book that lists subjects that posts are under, like-minded subjects like holidays, for example. If you want to just focus on holidays, you can do that. So you're going to select 2 posts, and then what you're going to do is you're going to relate those posts to the subject of the readings for that day, and then you're going to make a post on D2L. Again, more about that when we get to that assignment. That's going to be worth a total of 40 points for the class, so a little bit more than 1/3 of the class. So right now we're at 70 points out of 100. Next up is the research proposal. The research proposal comes at the end of class. This is a proposal that gets you on your way to your research paper. And so there's a couple stages that we'll go through here. You'll make a proposal to me. I'll give you feedback on it, and then we're going to meet in person before you get going full speed on your research paper, which takes me to the last item. The research paper for this class is worth 20 points, and it's a research paper that's going to be assigned to you in which you're going to compare the media system of your country with the media system of another student's selected country. All right, next up is the grading scale. There for you. ESU has kind of a funny grading scale. There's no A+, there's no D-, there's no D+, there's no F. What there is E, D, C-, C+, B-, B+, A-, A. And you'll see my scale there and how I will determine your grade in the class. All right, next up on the syllabus is communication with the professor. When sending an email, please use a salutation. I'm always needing, or not always, but I'm often needing to get my students into the habit of what proper email etiquette it involves, and it does not involve starting your sentence with, when is the assignment due? No, that's not email etiquette. That may be texting etiquette, and that's fine for texting, but in email, it's more formal. So I want you to use a salutation, professor, greetings, hello, good morning, something along those lines. Also, please make sure you write in complete sentences and using proper punctuation and grammar. Don't just dash off a question using your thumbs while you're driving at a stop sign without checking what it is that you've typed to see if autocorrect hasn't totally screwed up your message. Your work that you should be sending in to me should be demonstrating that you belong in a 400 level class. Next up, don't use any cell phone texting style. Don't use any small I. Don't use the letter C instead of the word SEE. You know what I'm talking about by now. All right, my plagiarism policy in this class is all work must be your own. You are not permitted to cut and paste sentences from the web or any other source. If you want to use ideas that you found from other sources, you must either cite that source or rephrase those ideas in your own words while also extending those ideas with your own thoughts. And I will use the D2L software and other methods to look for plagiarism. And unfortunately, I have to do that when a course is taught online. If there are any suspected cases of plagiarism, I ship them over to the ESU's Office of Student Conduct and Community Standards, and they'll investigate. Next up is a Title IX statement. This should be on every professor's syllabus that you take. This is basically informing you of your rights and being free from harassing situations in the class or really at East Stroudsburg in general. All right, now it's time to take a look at the tentative schedule of events. You'll see that everything is laid out there for you, but as I mentioned earlier, I may need to make some changes since the first time the class has been restructured. But you'll see today that we're just handling things that don't have to do with readings for the course. I'll be assigning those 2 other assignments when we get closer. Our first time that we're going to be reading is going to be the next class on Thursday, and those readings are going to be posted for you. They're going to be posted for you under the Content tab, and the reason for that is those readings are extractions from my previous book. They are going to be the material that still is relevant. My book was called Comparing Media from Around the World, so I'm just taking that material and I'm providing it for you so that you don't have to pay for it. The first time we'll be reading from one of the books that you have to pay for is going to be on September the 3rd, our 3rd class. All right, so you can read through that on your own. You can get a sense of where the class is headed. You'll see that our readings pretty much wrap up before Thanksgiving, and then we're just really focusing on that research paper for the very back end of class. Now, in the middle of that syllabus, you'll see that we are taking an optional field trip to Montreal. That is going to be limited to 12 students. I've done this several times in the past. Here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be leaving on September the 20th. We're going to be leaving very early in the morning. We're going to ask students to pitch in and to do some car pooling. So we're going to need 3 drivers from the class to be able to take 3 other students in their vehicles. We're going to leave early in the morning. It's about a 6.5 to 7 hour drive if we have no problems before we get to Montreal. Once we get to our hotel, which is going to have free breakfast, we're going to be then getting ready for a walking tour of town from a Montreal native. Now, I don't know what you know about Montreal, but it's a beautiful town. It's very French. It's in the French province of Quebec, and it's mostly French speaking. And the old part of Montreal, Old Town, looks like Europe. And that's where we're going to be walking around to learn the history of Montreal. So we'll be doing that Friday night. On Saturday, what we will do is we will meet for a brief class discussion, and then we will take a tour of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, or CBC, as the main focus of our trip to study another country's media system. And so we'll have a really fantastic tour. I've been on it several times. It's a real eye-opener to see the facilities that they have available in there. So that's Saturday, and then Saturday night is free for you to go out in the town or do whatever you're going to do. Then on Sunday, you have free time during the day, and then on Sunday evening, we're going to have dinner at a French restaurant. And this is for the purpose of showcasing how other cultures eat. They eat differently. They don't eat necessarily as Americans do, in part because of the media that we are influenced by. So that'll be our experience on Sunday, and then Monday morning we'll get up and we'll leave, and cars can leave earlier if they want, or they can wait for the carpool to leave at the same time. That'll be up for you. There will be a cost associated with this course. I'm still figuring that out. With this experience, I should say. Part of it is going to be subsidized by East Stroudsburg University in the interest of providing unusual experiences for students that are relevant to the course. But you'll just have to hang on a little bit for me to get this planning together, and I'll make the announcement, and you can sign up, and it's going to be first come, first served basis to get the 12 students, depending on who makes deposits. All right, and now to wrap things up in this first instructor video, I want to talk about the 2 assignments that are due by tomorrow at 1 p.m. The first one is called the Introduction Assignment. You can find this explained under the Discussions link under the Communication tab on D2L. You can find what you're supposed to do. You're going to be recording a 2-minute video introducing yourself. I'll be recording one as well. And you're going to cover certain subjects that I've listed right there on D2L. After all those are uploaded, then what we're going to do next is we're going to come back and comment on everybody's to try and get some chemistry together in the class, which we need to do because we're meeting online. Keep in mind that you need to make your video public. If you record it on YouTube, please make sure that you watch it after you've posted it. Don't just post it and assume that it went through. Make sure that it went through. Most people will record on YouTube and then post the link to that, but I'm sure you have other methods of recording directly as well. You can record directly to D2L, but I think sometimes it requires more memory than the videos have. The videos require more memory than D2L has, I should say. All right, and then lastly, you are to pick a country. So there's 24 students in the class right now, so the first ones that start posting are probably going to pick countries from a certain area of the world. We'll come back and look at that later. But everybody needs to pick a different country, and you're going to be studying this country all semester long. It'll be a great opportunity for you to visit some of your heritage, perhaps, that you haven't had the chance to visit in a formal academic setting in your life, or a country that you've just always been interested in. Or maybe you just want to pick a random country, which would be the least likely. That's up to you. So there you have it. Welcome to our first day of Comparative Media, CMST 410. If you have any questions, please email me. I'm a really quick email answer. Otherwise, I have office hours. Those office hours must be scheduled. You can schedule them yourself on Warriorfish, or you can ask Marina Cameron, the secretary, to schedule those hours. She's on our webpage. In the meantime, I hope you have a great day.